I had the experience of traveling into the astral, but it was not quite successful. Therefore, I have not returned to deep meditation. What happened to me while doing the meditative technique shocked me and convinced me even more that our world is just a prologue to another life, and there are other worlds. Bullshit, you will say. How do you know? I will reply. We will all know the truth someday, only we won't be able to share it with the living. I spent a long time studying special literature on the technique of going into the astral, practicing proper breathing and death pose, and superficially meditating, and finally decided to give it a try. That day I was alone at home, turned off the phone, closed the windows, but did not shade them, timed the time, and, taking the right pose, began to breathe correctly and perform the technique. At first everything went well. Then there was resistance and strong discomfort. It became cold and difficult to breathe. They warned about this in books. It is the moment of the soul leaving the body, and then a completely incomprehensible sensation, as if I, like a bud, opened and filled the whole room, being simultaneously on the bed, under the ceiling, in the corners, and under the bed. In short, I filled the whole room with myself, and, as experienced travelers in books advise, began to explore the space of my room in a new capacity. I was everywhere and could see what was being done, for example, behind the closet, in the chandelier lights, under the bed, on the shelves behind the books. I was looking specifically for hard-to-reach places. The sensations were very pleasant. Some childish joy and mischief, lightness, and a feeling of smooth rocking. The sounds outside the window were sharp and loud. The light was dazzling, and I did not smell at all. All the objects in the room were perceived in a completely different way, from all sides and facets at once. Strangely enough, I didn't even look at my body once, as if I had forgotten about it. After spending some time in the room, I decided to continue my journey outside of it. I didn't have to go through the walls as I had anticipated. As soon as I decided to look in on my neighbors, I was in their house. I could vaguely see that something was cooking on the kitchen stove, and there was a light on in the hallway. But then the neighbor's dog ran into the kitchen and stopped me from seeing what it was. She started barking and jumping on me, propelling me towards the ceiling. I heard someone walking from the room into the kitchen and scolding the dog, and I was horrified to find myself back in my room, not knowing what to do in my panic. The first thing I noticed was the darkness. The room was dark, and the sounds outside the window were gone. I saw myself on the bed, and I felt scared. I looked up at my body from the ceiling and saw my face, distorted and unrecognizable. My fingers and toes were strangely cramped and had a bluish tinge to them. There was something like a rope stretching from my body to me, only it looked like a mist, visible indistinctly. This something, a silver thread connecting soul to body as described in meditation books, was not silver or even gray, but rather white and circulated dimly, shimmering. The moment I looked up, something rumbled outside the balcony door on the side of my bed, as if someone's forehead had smashed into the glass. I instantly found myself near the balcony and saw behind the glass the huge head of a black cat. A black cat the size of a bear looked right at me, not at the one who was lying on the bed, but at my soul, so to speak, with a hungry look, and yelled in a bad voice louder and louder. And then he went quiet and winked at me. I was very much frightened. Meditation books warned of possible encounters with the souls of other travelers, sleepers, and even the dead, as well as otherworldly entities of the lower worlds, demons. It was strongly recommended not to meditate in complete solitude. The cat disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared, and I decided to return immediately. I couldn't do it quickly. My heart might not be able to bear the strain, so I had to retreat gradually along the silver thread. What was my horror when, in the half-darkness of the room, behind the headboard of my bed, I saw a creature remotely resembling a human being. It was of a hideous black color, with a small elongated head and long neck, skinny, long arms spread apart, and long bony fingers with natural claws at the ends. The creature looked at me with such flat eyes that I can't forget it to this day. The creature had no nose, and the mouth was not a mouth, but rather a jagged, shapeless wound with crooked teeth. There was no hair on its head. It had something else, incomprehensible and inexplicable, like horns. The creature shook its head slowly and disapprovingly, never taking its eyes off me, and pointed a gaunt finger just as slowly at my body, lying helplessly on the bed. From the wound in my mouth came a muffled moan, like the sound of blowing into the neck of a bottle. This groan threw me into a daze. The next instant, there was a noise on the balcony, followed by the wild cry of a cat and a violent blow on the glass. The creature jumped up and, leaping to the balcony door, disappeared with the cat. Wasting no time, I returned to my body. It was painful and uncomfortable, as if I had sunk headfirst into the damp earth. I was panting and cramped, my body pressing in on me from all sides. But there, outside my body, I felt dangerous and defenseless, so I hurried back. Judging by the clock, I was no more than 40 minutes into the astral journey. After the trip, I felt strange. My muscles were stiff, my limbs were very cold, I felt weak, and my heart was pounding. Perhaps in the future I will return to the technique of astral traveling, but necessarily under the guidance of a good specialist. Well, here is the whole story about traveling to the astral. How do you like such a creepy story? Personally, I liked it, and you? Share your impressions in the comments, and I will create a new scary story. Bye-bye.